Just when you thought that this team was done, they reel you back in, man. The Pittsburgh Steelers get their biggest win of the 2025 season to date, taking firm control back of the AFC North over the arch-rival Baltimore Ravens on the road in Baltimore today by a final score of 27-22. And there's a lot to talk about here on the Steelers Talk post-game show. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Before we dive into this huge win for the black and gold and tell you why this was a monumentous win for the Pittsburgh Steelers here after losing 2 straight heading into this ball game. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're going to be going live for every single Steelers game down the stretch. We got 4 games left to go. We got a month of football left. Hopefully the Steelers saved their best for last here. We're going to be covering every single second of it right here on Steelers Talk. So for all of our post-game reactions, our live watch parties, our daily coverage throughout the week, make sure you click that subscribe button and join the largest individually run Steelers news program anywhere here on YouTube. So what a game, man. 27-22. Fast start for the Steelers offense, getting a lot of points. Get a big turnover in the first half from James Pierre. And, Lamar Jackson, honestly, I didn't think played like amazingly. I thought he played okay. 19-35, 219 yards with a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown, but a big interception in the first half. Once again, Steelers run defense not fantastic, giving up, over 200 rushing yards again today. Derrick Henry nearly got to triple digits. Zay Flowers absolutely cooked in this game, 124 yards. But the Steelers offense today found a little bit of a spark, throwing the ball down the field, specifically to DK Metcalf. Aaron Rodgers was really good today, 23 of 34, 284 yards and 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing, 1 passing with no interceptions. Kenny Gainwell led the team in rushing with only 15 yards today. No run game whatsoever. But the Steelers defense, man, they gave up a lot of yards today, but when they needed to make stops in that fourth quarter, they stepped up big time, and they were able to get the win 27-22, ending the game with a sack on Lamar Jackson. Now, before we get into my takeaways and my game balls, we have a trio of concussions for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Darnell Washington, Malik Harrison, and Andrews Pete all leave this game with concussions. They'll obviously be entering concussion protocol this week. And, concussions can be fickle. Some concussions, like James Pierre last week, he can come back and play the following week. Some concussions, you might have to miss a couple weeks. So we'll keep you guys updated on their statuses throughout the week. If we get an update from Mike Tomlin in the postgame presser, I'll have that in our second postgame show that'll come out around halftime of Sunday Night Football this evening. But, man, let's get into the game balls. I haven't been able to give out some game balls in a while here, but Aaron Rodgers, man, speaking of things we haven't seen in a while, we haven't seen this version of Aaron Rodgers since the first half of the season, probably since, the Cincinnati game back in Week 7. And, of course, you lose that game because the defense couldn't get the stops that they made in this game. But Rodgers throwing the ball down the field to DK Metcalf, to Calvin Austin III, making big plays happen, extending plays outside of the pocket. I thought, the offense and Rodgers slowed down towards the end when, they kind of had to run clock and they tried running the ball more and they were in 3rd and long situations more. But when they were in their pass-heavy approach early in the game, Rodgers was dealing. He was throwing those beautiful dime pieces down the field to DK Metcalf, and that's who gets my second game ball here today. Metcalf, incredible stat line today, 148 yards. He led the game in receiving yards. He ended with 12 targets and 7 catches. There's some opportunities that DK missed out on in this game for sure, but when you throw those balls down the field, those are lower percentage looks. There's going to be some more incompletions. I would rather Rodgers take those opportunities one-on-one down the sideline, and that's exactly what he did today. DK probably had his best game, just winning at the catch point of his Steelers tenure, going up and getting those footballs. And Rodgers putting it pinpoint accurate on him. Certainly made it a big effort to get DK Metcalf the football in this game, and it showed. Hopefully that continues in the weeks to come. Then Brandon Echols, had a really good first half in particular, made some big plays to force the Ravens off the field early in this game, had a sack on Lamar Jackson. He had a couple pass breakups. He was all over the place today, man, and I think he deserves a game ball as well. Then you get to James Pierre, who had the big interception. All James Pierre does is make plays, man. He's been such a good starting caliber corner ever since he took over, what was it, a month and a half ago. He's just been so good, and he's earning himself a huge payday. Had a one-handed interception that really was the difference in the ball game today. As much as you like Asante Samuel Jr. and want to see him out there at times, James Pierre's playing so well. I think he's got to continue to be starting on the outside, and you might even think about bringing him back in free agency next year at this point. he's playing so well. But then Patrick Queen, he got injured. He comes back. He gets a big pass breakup on 4th down with the Ravens driving in the 4th quarter. And that's just absolutely fantastic stuff there from Patrick, who certainly wasn't without his faults in this game. He made a mistake that led to a Lamar Jackson rushing touchdown. We know Queenie has had his faults both in run defense and pass defense this year, but to have him make that play against his former team in his former home stadium, get his first win as a Steeler in Baltimore, huge win for Patrick Queen. He deserves a game ball. And then, yes, we got to give a game ball to head coach Mike Tomlin, who has obviously been feeling the heat after losing these last 2 games, after losing that 3.5-game lead at the beginning of the season in the division. If he would have lost this game 3 games in a row, 6 of your last 8, he really would have felt it. So this was one of the biggest games of Mike Tomlin's entire career in terms of preserving his status as this team's head coach. And with this win, all the reports out there indicate that the Steelers are likely to accept his team option in 2027, which is due on March 1st. So Mike Tomlin, big-time win. And the thing that I'll say about this Steelers team, man, and Steelers teams under Mike Tomlin, say what you will about Coach T, these teams never give up on Mike Tomlin, ever, and on each other, all right? They can start a season 3-7 and finish 9-8, all right? They can lose 3 straight games with Mitch Trubisky at quarterback and then win 3 straight to finish the season and make the playoffs in 2023. Like, no matter how bad things appear for the Pittsburgh Steelers under Mike Tomlin, what's really remarkable about this leader is that he gets this team to bounce back better than just about any other head coach in the National Football League. He's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but he got the Steelers a big win today, and he deserves credit for that. So who's your MVP? Let me know down there in the comment section. Who was today's MVP for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. I got to give it to Aaron Rodgers, who carried the offense on his back today, plain and simply. Had some great throws and decisions on his film, and I'm looking forward to watching the All-22 tomorrow to see just how good of a performance it really was. But let me know what you guys' pick is down there in the comment section for today's pinned question. In just a second here, I'll tell you about our sponsor. While I discuss our sponsor today, let me know who the Steelers MVP was down there in the comment section. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor today, where you guys can get this Pittsburgh Steelers t-shirt. It's today only, by the way, so time is running out. Go to chatsports.com/week1425 and use code FROST for 35% off this Steelers t-shirt. You can get this for just $25 right now with code FROST. Just go to chatsports.com/week1425. That link is down there in the comments and description if you want this Steelers t-shirt in your closet today. All right, so my takeaways. First one. The Aaron Rodgers we saw in the first 6 weeks, where he was a legitimate top 10 quarterback in the league, borderline top 10 quarterback by the numbers, was back today. I mean, he pushed the ball down the field. He was aggressive. He made good decisions with the football. He was supremely accurate when he decided to throw the ball down the field today. Had a couple missed throws for sure. He wasn't perfect, but obviously this is the best game Rodgers has played since probably the Cincinnati game back in Week 7. It's been almost 2 months straight where Rodgers has not played good football, and hopefully, this is the Rodgers we get the rest of the way. And I'm interested to see what the film looks like, because I don't know exactly why he threw the ball to DK Metcalf more. Maybe he just said, F it, they're double teaming him, I'm going to throw it to him anyway. Maybe, the gravity of maybe Adam Thielen and MVS or anybody else, or the formations, was able to get the double teams off of DK today. But all I know, man, is that Rodgers really stepped up today. And if this is the Rodgers we get the rest of the way, the Pittsburgh Steelers can beat any team in the AFC on any given Sunday. But obviously there's still a lot of football to go and a lot yet to prove for the Steelers offense. But then DK Metcalf, man, I mean, you pay him all that money. Obviously he's been disappointing throughout most of the season because he has been double teamed and there hasn't been a lot of open opportunities to go get him the football. But Rodgers really made it a point today to get him the ball. 12 targets today. That is 9 more than any other Steelers player in the passing game. Actually, no, never mind. There's Gainwell had 7. But among receivers, I mean, it wasn't even close. DK Metcalf was the focus of the offensive game plan this week. I thought it was a good game plan from Art. I thought Rodgers did a good job executing that. And whenever your top receiver averages over 20 yards of reception, it was a good day throwing the ball down the field to him. So, this guy's an absolute monster. If you can find ways to get him open like they did today, he's going to make big plays for you. So hopefully, this is the DK Metcalf we see down the stretch. But even though the passing game got a lot better this week, the run game got even worse. It wasn't a great week last week in the run game. It was even worse this week. The Steelers just got their ass handed to them up front. on offense today. In the run game in particular, Jaylen Warren on 8 carries only had 13 yards. I mean, that's just not Jaylen Warren-esque. Now, Warren had a big touchdown as a receiver today on a big third down in the second half, but the run game just wasn't going. I mean, Kenny Gainwell led the team in rushing today with 15, and he was the only guy outside of Rodgers with the discount double check, by the way, to have a rushing touchdown today. But they did get Caleb Johnson a little bit of work, but nothing too crazy, only 4 yards on 2 carries. But yeah, man, this has become a really pass-heavy offense, and I think that's what we're going to see as the season goes on. All right, I think that this Steelers offense is a pass-heavy offense, and especially with Darnell Washington going down with a concussion, if he has to miss any time with that, Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith just aren't good enough blockers, in my opinion, to ask them to play the Darnell Washington role. I would rather go multiple receivers. I kind of like their big wide receiver set today with Skoranek, Thielen, and DK Metcalf. I kind of like that idea, getting those bigger bodies out there. I would like to see Adam Thielen get more involved than he was today. He only had 1 target today. He did have a catch in a 4-yard gain, but certainly was a relatively low-end factor. It was the DK Metcalf show, but for somebody that hasn't been in the offense all that long, hopefully after a full week of preparation, we can see Adam Thielen's role grow in the Steelers offense, and maybe we can give Roman Wilson a roster spot over Scotty Miller. Just an idea. I don't know. But then you get Kenny G, who I thought I want to give some props to here, who's really shown today that he's a good kickoff return man. They made Keshawn Williams a healthy scratch today. So Kenny was the one that was returning kicks along with Jaylen Warren. And, those two did a good job today, especially Kenny G. I think that he's somebody that's pretty good out in space. He can make guys miss, and his value as a receiver, his value as a running back as well, obviously has been showing these last 3 weeks. And now you add special team return guy as well as a special team coverage guy. Kenny G just wears a lot of hats for this Steelers team. And honestly, at this point, I'd be a little surprised if the Steelers don't try and bring him back in free agency next year. But then, on defense, and this is really where the crux of the problems with Pittsburgh begins, if you're going to be talking big picture here. The defense ran out of gas again today, man. Like, the defense obviously misses Kyle Duggar, obviously misses Derek Harmon. And in the 4 games now where you don't have Derek Harmon, you're giving up a ton of yardage. You once again give up over 200 yards on the ground. You didn't give up a 100-yard rusher, but you had 2 guys over 75 and 3 guys over 40 yards rushing given up in this game. In the second half, you did come up with some big stops, and we'll talk about those here in a second. But, you're facing some really good run teams down the stretch here. You got Miami coming up. You got Detroit coming up, all right? Quinshon Judkins and the Browns can run it a little bit, and then you do get the Ravens again. So, I think a big question mark right now and a big X factor is just how serious is Derek Harmon's knee injury. How long is it going to keep him out? And, if he can come back as soon as possible, that would be great. And if he can't come back really quickly, I really think this Steelers team needs to think about adding a defensive tackle this week in free agency. Give a call to Christian Wilkins, see if he's available to come in. I'm 100% serious about that. This team needs run stuffers, and, plain simply, Keanu Benson, Cam Hayward, and Logan Lee, and Y.A. Black, and Ezesi Odomiwu, that rotation is not getting it done right now. So they got to find a solution to that if Derek Harmon is gonna miss more time. But, kudos to the defense, man, at the end. They did hold strong. It reminded me a little bit of the Jets game at the start of the season where you just couldn't stop the Jets offense all day, and then, the defense gets 2 big stops at the end of the game to seal it. That's very much the way it played out in this one. They gave up a lot of yardage, but in those weighty possession downs in the fourth quarter, this defense showed up, and the pass rush showed up in those big moments and forced Lamar into poor throws and brought him down for a game-sealing sack, all those different things. So as bad as the Steelers defense has been and as inconsistent as they have been, especially with Derek Harmon out of the lineup, you got to give them credit for holding strong there at the end and sealing the victory for the black and gold. And then, my final takeaway here, guys, is that this was such a big win for the Pittsburgh Steelers because of the schedules that the Steelers have for the final 4 games and the next 3 games in particular versus what the Ravens have to go up against. All right, with the Steelers, they have a 1-game advantage right now, and over the next 3 games, they got 2 games where they really should win. against the Miami Dolphins and the Cleveland Browns. And if you take care of business against those two teams, if you win 2 of your next 3 games, which should be reasonable for a playoff caliber team, if the Steelers think they're a team that can win in the playoffs, they should be able to beat Miami and they should be able to beat Cleveland. All right, if you do those 2 things and you win those 2 games, Baltimore will have to win at least 2 of the next 3 against Cincinnati on the road, a team they already lost against at home last week. Then they have to play the number 1 seed in the AFC, the New England Patriots, at home. That's their final home game, I believe. And then they have to finish the season with Green Bay on the road in Lambeau. They might be the number 1 seed in the NFC this year. And then you got to play the Steelers again in the final game. So if the Steelers can win against Miami and Cleveland, and if Baltimore fails to win 2 of their next 3 games, that means the Steelers would have the division locked up before they even have to play the Ravens again in the season finale, which would be awesome, okay? So the Steelers have really set themselves up nicely here. They still got to improve. There's still things that they got to get better at, especially up front. I mean, it's not very often where you lose the trench battle on both sides of the ball and you win, but that's what happened today. The Steelers won with splash. The Steelers won with perimeter play on offense in the pass game, and then, they made the plays that they needed to play on defense, or needed to make on defense to be able to get the win. So let me know down there in the comments section. Great today's performance from the Steelers in the biggest win of the season to this point. Give me an A, B, C, D, or F. I will give them a A-, all right? It's not a perfect game. They got to play a lot better, especially up front on both sides of the ball if they want to be more competitive, especially once we get into January and into playoff time. But obviously, this is a big win, and it should be celebrated. Now, before I say goodbye here, just some final thoughts here. The Pittsburgh Steelers obviously, still have issues, okay? They need to get better up front, both sides of the ball. I've said that a ton, all right? Rodgers needs to keep up this level of play. I think you still need to get your secondary receiving options more involved, whether that's Calvin Austin or, Adam Thielen or Marquez Valdes-Scantling, or maybe they give Roman Wilson a helmet next week over Scotty Miller, hopefully. You still have areas where you need to get better. There's areas where you need to prove that you can be consistent in. Hopefully Derek Harmon can come back so that this run defense can get back to stopping some of these running backs like Jonathan Taylor and Josh Jacobs like they did earlier in the season. But, getting this win in Baltimore today really sets this team up for success and a chance to win 2 of your final 4 and still make the playoffs, all right? 9-8 should be good enough to win the division this year. And honestly, I think the Steelers have an opportunity to still win 3 of their final 4 and get to 10 wins for the 3rd straight season under Mike Tomlin. So that's where we're at right now, guys. I'm going to have more thoughts after I watch the game again later, and I'll get that video out around halftime of Sunday Night Football. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I'll have more thoughts for you guys once I get a chance to watch this game back over, look at the numbers, look at the box score, the team stats, all that different stuff, and of course the post-game press conferences. So we'll have more for you guys later this evening. Don't miss that. Click that subscribe button, turn on those notifications so you know when that video comes out.